So Shirley, again, it's a biographical drama. It's been long in development from what I understand, but this is about Shirley Chisholm, who is a prominent historic African American figure, really in all of history. It really depicts her bid at running for president in the early 70s. She's largely known for being one of the first candidates to be elected to United States Congress, but then also going on to actually make a bid to run for president back in 1972 as well. And Regina King, of course, is coming off of really a historic few years. You know, she's tapped into directing. She's obviously continued to work as an actress. Won an Academy Award a few years ago, and she's tackling this project, which I know has been pretty close to her for quite a while now. She talked about it recently, wanting to do this movie, I think about 12 or 13 years ago, but sort of
Wow.
actively spoke about the fact that she just wasn't ready at that time. Like, it was actually a blessing in disguise that they did not make the movie when they were initially trying to make it, and that it actually benefited her to wait all these years later to come back and tackle Shirley Chisholm, because it is such an important person in human history. But I have not checked this one out yet. You have actually gone and checked this one out on Netflix, so I will pass it over to you. What did you think about this new film, Shirley?
Man, everything that you said about Shirley Chisholm made me very interested to watch this. Or Regina King, I should say, who's playing Shirley, made me very interested to watch it. Plus, I'm just as a Regina King fan. And Netflix has gone through like a rabbit hole of biopics, I guess. Like, first we get Rustin, now we're doing Shirley. Do we name biopics over anything except their name anymore? It's really funny. I guess you know exactly what you're getting. But it really kind of feels, to be honest, similar to Rustin in that way. It feels like we're just trying to tell a story of, I think the difference between Rustin and Shirley, people know who Shirley Chisholm is, right? Versus Rustin was like, everybody's like, oh, who's this guy? Shirley Chisholm made a dent in history. She was really a force to be reckoned with. One of my favorite things about her, and you'll see quotes about this and who she was, is like Shirley Chisholm had no boss. And even in the movie, you'll see the way Regina King plays it, of like, there's moments where she's like, I'm just gonna go talk to the person I should talk to, and everyone's like, whoa, 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 you can't just move up and talk to that person. Like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? And so Shirley Chisholm, if you see any videos about her or any documentaries, like, she really was a dope person. And what makes it different from what this movie different from Rustin in particular, Rustin, you knew that at the end of it, the Million Man March was going to be a thing, right? And history knows that actually happened. So you know Rustin, by the end of the film, is going to be successful. Shirley's kind of the opposite. You know Shirley Chisholm didn't get elected as president. We would have a whole nother different future. And so that's what made me interested to watch it, I think, is that juxtaposition of like, we kind of know Shirley Chisholm loses, but how do we get there? And historically, this is not necessarily a spoiler or anything, but historically, what made Shirley such a hard individual, or what made her, I guess, her rise to ascendancy so hard as president, even as part of the role she held before that, what made it so hard was her intersectionality. Women were split on her, and Black people were split on her. It is almost impossible when that vote is split for you to do anything. And so this movie is kind of about that. Why are people split? What is Shirley trying to achieve? What is it about her family that makes her like this? That makes her like this, and that makes her journey so difficult. And overall, it's okay. It's kind of similar to Rustin, I think, in the way of like, you're not necessarily inventing anything new. There's not too much about Shirley after watching this that I feel like I learned per se. I feel like I knew most of this already. It's like just taking me through the journey of this specific moment in her life, which I do love. It's not a cradle to the grave. I do love that, but it's just, we've been there, kind of done that. I wish there was more to add, and that's unfortunate. It's an okay watch. It's an okay movie. Probably a little long to get to the ending that we got to. It also wraps up kind of fast, even though it is long, but it's just fine at the end of the day. I wish there was just so much more. And I think Regina King, she plays her part. She does what she has to do. But yeah, it turns out to just be a normal biopic and movie. Again, that's kind of how I felt with Rustin as well. And again, these are both Netflix biopics. I'm like wondering if this is a trend that they're going to continue to do. Like, is the next movie Medgar? You know what I'm saying? Like we didn't got you know I don't know what's going to happen, but again we've talked about biopics at length you know on this podcast. I don't know what else they can do, but they're who knows? Maybe there needs to be a new formula that needs that needs to be invented. But again, overall, Shirley is just fine. They don't really add anything new to the pot, but I did enjoy Regina King playing such a historical figure. Yeah, in this movie.
I got a follow up question about what you just brought up there because Netflix is obviously the big purveyor of a lot of these, especially with Rustin just coming out like 6 months ago. But I, is it better that we just have these even if they're super average? Like,
Mhm.
is it worth having them just exist even if they're just like okay movies, or is there an argument to be made as to why make it if it's not going to be truly insightful, truly revelatory, something that's unique and different? Like, we understand that
Mhm.
these are important figures, but they're also in the history books. They're real people. You can go learn about them. You can read a book. You can open, all of that stuff is readily available. Do we need a film about this individual? And so I I just asked that because there is a Hollywood in a world in which none of these movies ever get made 20
Yeah.
years ago. They weren't
Mhm.
getting made because you didn't have as many tech companies, streaming companies out there looking for as much as they can tell, trying to appeal to certain audiences and demographics. But now, because we have these new avenues, these new streaming services and the Netflixes and the Prime Videos of the world, who are investing more money and resources into the stuff, and they're looking to make sure that they're satisfying these audiences. Perhaps the development and the production of these is kind of the sacrifice of that. Like, well, we're going to give it to you, but
Mm.
it's not going to be the greatest thing. It's not going to be this huge movie. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that it's just worth having these movies, even if they're not exceptional, or should we just like let them live in the history books as opposed to trying to do something if we don't have any new take to their lives?
That's such a good question that I think we need to present to a whole nother audience that's not just the listeners of this podcast, because I feel like for a while now we've been trying to chase, I guess technically since 2014, 2015. I kind of feel like we've been trying to chase Selma, right? And like the feeling that movie gave us in terms of like you knew it was Martin Luther King, but like it was like a story we had never seen. It was very like it's probably still Ava's best movie to me, probably. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like there, but also without that, would we have talked about it? You know, and so now it's like it makes it hard for me to kind of really reckon with what you're saying, because without Rustin, would I have known Rustin was? You know what I'm saying? Without that movie attempting to become what it is through Netflix, through all of these things, how would I have heard about him, or when would I have heard about Rustin? You know, I don't know. And it's not, we knew about Shirley Chisholm. I think she was more prominent than Rustin was, right? Like people know who Shirley Chisholm is, but do people really know the ins and outs of what the struggle she went through while she was running for her presidency? Again, the book is there, all of that stuff is there, but does it take the movie for us to find the book? Like, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think that again, maybe somebody else can answer better, because I can see both sides. I can see like, heck no, don't make that movie. Just promote the book. You know, she had a documentary and like 20 years ago. I think it was like literally came out like 2004. But yeah, she had it was another documentary came out about Shirley Chisholm 20 years ago. And you can tell people to watch that, but when it comes to these historical figures, I don't know. I don't know. I think that's a really good question. Do you have an answer?
I think it's a couple of things because it all depends on where you're coming at it from. In the case of Bayard Rustin, I didn't know who Bayard Rustin was. I actually knew a lot about him just because of
Mm-hmm.
some things that I did in high school that
Mm-hmm.
exposed to me to less prominent figures in the civil rights movement. So I had a good idea of who he was, and I think the reality is that most people, to your point, don't know. So there is value in exposing, like, oh well, you might think one thing about the civil rights movement and who launched these certain initiatives or whatever the case may be, but actually it was this person who we couldn't at that
Mm-hmm.
time we couldn't present in the forefront because of his sexuality. There is value to that. I think that ultimately it's one of those things where if it were up to me, I think it's really dependent upon the availability of what's already out there. Like if there's a really good documentary about somebody out there that's already in existence and this movie is
Mm,
coming out and we can't necessarily do anything different or top what that documentary exposed about that person in a good way, then should we be doing it just for the sake of doing it? Or even in a textual sort of context and a literary sort of
mhm.
context, I don't know if certain things need to be adapted into live action. We just talked about the Origin movie from Ava DuVernay, speaking of, and
Yeah.
there could be an argument made that maybe that wasn't the best thing to adapt. There's value in it, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that's going to necessarily resonate and work for everybody. I do think that movie is like pretty good,
Mhm.
probably above average for sure. But
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of these more average fares where it's like, yeah, the film is fine, but what value isn't necessarily adding? That's always going to depend on the person, depend on who gets exposed to whoever that individual is, especially if they didn't know about them. I will say, conversely, on the other side, it does do a really good thing for certain actors. Like Coleman Domingo got an Oscar nomination from that performance,
That's true.
So for him personally,
Mhm.
that's a gain and a benefit. Like that probably wouldn't have happened if he didn't have that opportunity. Now, presumably, his career in the future is going to be great. He's going to get a lot more opportunities because of what happened with Rustin. So that is a plus. That is a net positive, obviously. I just, again, I look at it from just a movie perspective, like every other genre. Like, despite these being historical figures and their importance to real human history, still a movie at the end of the day. And I look
Yeah.
at it like any other genre. What's the value here, really? Like, why are we doing it? Is it really saying something that's going to be compelling and enticing to actually like enlighten us and provide us with new information and new things about this individual? And if we can't quite get there, then I don't know, maybe we got
Mhm.
to re-examine it and try something else. And so that's where I come at it from. So it'll be interesting to see like what other projects they tackle. They have done a lot. They did the Madam CJ Walker joint a while ago too.
Yep.
They've
Some of the stuff is
invested.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything just feels okay though, you know?
and
Everything is like, ah, that's okay.
and if we're talking like that, and these are like supposed to be really historical black
Big.
figures, it's like I want it to be
Yeah.
better than okay. I don't want to,
Absolutely.
because I'm not gonna watch it again. I'm just gonna check it out and be like, oh
Exactly.
well, this might just be a good middle school movie to show fourth graders to get them to learn
Yep.
about.
I'm gonna play my friend Martin again.
Yeah, run that one back. That shit's on
our
YouTube. That's the one I'm gonna play. God damn
our
it.
friend Martin.
That did more for me about learning about Martin than a lot of other stuff did. That was
For
interesting.
sure.
That was
It
different. I mean,
was. It was.
time
You're right.
travel, animation, like
Mm-hmm.
where's that audacity to just take something and just completely turn it on its head? I feel like we kind of
You're
need
right.
that instead of doing
You're
the by
right.
the book stuff. So we'll have to see, but I'm glad for Regina King that she did finally get this off the ground. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the brand new biographical drama Shirley. If you've checked this movie out on Netflix, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.